Today we're talking about how to survive the mother of all comic book conventions. That's right, San Diego Comic-Con. Welcome to Panelism, the podcast where we talk about the comic books and graphic novels worth having on your shelf. I'm Todd A. And I couldn't decide whether it would be funnier to leave a blank there or to edit in Taylor Trask's voice because he is not in the studio with me today. Studio being my kitchen. But anyway, I'm recording a new intro for a show that we wanted to bring back to you. Last year, we did what we called our SDCC, that's San Diego Comic-Con, Survival Guide, and I just thought it was great. Like, we talked about doing this again this year in 2019, and I went back and listened to our old show to see what we left out, and I thought, no, we didn't leave out anything. That was perfect. So we are just going to bring you that with just a few edits. Bear in mind, at the time, we were not called Panelism, so I've tried to bowdlerize that so that this is presented to you as an episode of Panelism, which it is and ever shall be. I don't think there's anything else I really need to tell you. We're going to jump into it. There may be some discussions of like panels and stuff I was looking forward to seeing in 2018. And bear in mind, if I say something like, well, last year, I'm talking about 2017, but other than that, we're hoping this will just be our, forever episode, and every year around San Diego Comic-Con time, we can put it in your ear holes, and you can think, or at least this will give you things to think about when you are prepping for San Diego Comic-Con and what to bring, and pretty much any Comic-Con during the summer heat is what I would say, because that, to me, is what is super unique about SDCC, is that it is right on the water and way downtown, just spitting distance from that great big wall that we're building. So without further introduction or ado, not ado, but ado. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm alone. I could fix all this. Anyway, this is our San Diego Comic-Con survival guide.
We have a big week coming up.
We sure do.
As I mentioned, just got back from traveling. You, sir, are going to be traveling, but it's sort of in your backyard, so not quite traveling as far as I did, but San Diego Comic-Con is on the horizon.
It is upon us once again.
Yeah. Geek Christmas, as I sometimes think of it. There are plenty of amazing cons across the country all year long. So I don't want to, Denver's happened last month. New York's when is New York's? I always forget when.
It's like early fall, I think.
Yeah. So there's
or something.
Many cons, but SDCC is kind of like the granddaddy of them all. It's the one that, you kind of have to, if you're getting your geek Girl Scout badge, or you're building out your belt, you have to attend that at least once. And Todd has attended many times. I sadly have not attended once. So I've had to live vicariously through you and my other friends who've gone. I really hope next year I can rectify that. The only reason I didn't even attempt it this year was because I was getting married and spending money on other things. So not really in the cards for me this year, but going in. Oh, go ahead.
I do think it's justified to say, honey, we got to cut the honeymoon short because San Diego Comic-Con is next week.
Oh man, I wish. If we had no jobs and unlimited money, that would have been in the cards. But our little kiddies were here back at home and they missed us terribly. So we had to come back. But Todd has been. You are a veteran at this point.
Yeah,
you picked up some tips. 11th year. Oh my God. In fact, now that you say that, I remember last year when we talked about SDCC, you had said 10th year, and it was like, wow, it's a decade in. But you picked up a lot of tips and tricks, and I was telling you before we started recording, there's this series of books, of travel books, called Rick Steves' Guide
Yeah.
to, and it's like, you know, usually it's Europe, but he's kind of got a bunch of different ones. And Rick Steves, if you don't know, they're really well done books. You usually see them in travel stores and bookstores and things. He kind of looks a bit like a pastor. So when you see the back, you almost want to call him Pastor Rick Steves. He's not, but you look at him, you're like, well, clearly you've been involved with ministry at some point. But like I was looking at our notes for today, and I was like, oh, Todd gets to do his Rick Steves Comic-Con guide to, essentially. And we've got a lot of good stuff. And I think to kick us off, you haven't gone yet. You're assembling, and hopefully the people listening, are in the process of packing or in the process of getting ready to go. I think for me, and I'm legitimately asking this because having not been to a con before, knowing that San Diego is big and sprawling, you kind of have to keep a lot of stuff with you. You got to pack light, I'm guessing, in a lot of cases. Walk our listeners through, how do you pack for San Diego Comic-Con?
That's great. A great question. Like for everyone to ask, how do you pack for this? I several years ago tried to do like a humorous video on like what to pack, but humorous, but being serious about it. And at the time, I was remembering this morning, how when I made that video the year previous, I had carried like a courier bag, like a shoulder bag kind of thing, which is just some, like that's what I carry day to day, drop a laptop in it or drop a book or notebook or whatever. So it made sense that's just my Comic-Con bag. But that particular year, I had decided I'm going to switch to a backpack. And I had bought this lightweight backpack and I hated it that year. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to my shoulder bag, didn't look back. But until last year, when I bought a Star Wars like souvenir backpack there, and it was a great backpack. And I had it for like maybe just 2 days of the con, because I bought it at the con. It was some, release right then. Mm-hmm. Looked sort of like a stormtrooper, had the Empire insignia on it, and was sort of battered up in black and white. And it was great for carrying everything. And then this year I've flip-flopped back and forth. In the intervening year, I have gotten rid of that backpack because I just didn't use it outside of con. And I have another lightweight backpack, but I'm also taking the shoulder bag. I'm going to do the backpack the first day and see how that treats me, because I have a pretty lightweight sort of, I don't know, it's a Timbuktu bag, but it's a very lightweight one, not like a camping one. So yeah. And then in that, I will have to jam in a bunch of daily necessities and contingencies. And I was also, if I don't know how it works for everyone, if this is just 4-day badge holders or if everyone gets this, but the past 2 years, Comic-Con has been doing this amazing booklet that comes with their badge. And they've actually always sent you some sort of stuff. It's just they've got their package going the last 2 years, where it's a little box you get and you open it up and your badge is in it. And there's like a souvenir pin, and then there's this booklet, and in the center of the booklet is a map of the convention center, and then there's some map of some additional stuff. And they have a pretty great like must-have list. And so they in that list, I mean, I think that's your basics. That's your jumping off point. I just wanted to expand on that a little bit. It looks like we've got pretty good weather next week in San Diego, like mid 70s.
Oh, wow.
But
it's usually pretty, I mean, is this traditionally like a really hot sort of time of year in San Diego? Like,
no, it's right on the water, like the convention center. So I mean, the difference for people, I would assume, traveling from like either the Pacific Northwest or like the eastern side of our country where there are seasons, is that for me, speaking as like a person who grew up in the South, the sun in California is just very different. And I'm sure it's the same all over the Southwest. Like, it's desert sun. It's not Nashville sun. It is a hot sun that there is no escape from, and there is no moisture in the air, so there's no humidity. You're just getting like a pure hot sunshine all day. So if there's no breeze or something, that can get pretty hot. But, generally like mid 70s down there is is perfect. Like you
Nice.
feel pretty good outside. Obviously, you're in the you're in a crowd of like 100 to 200,000 people, so there's body heat to be aware of, and also air not moving. I mean, I would guess like without anyone in the convention center, they must be keeping it at like 40 degrees.
Jesus.
I mean, because it's like if you can go in and it feels slightly comfortable, and there's it's at least 70,000 people in there at any given time or something, it's got to be an iceberg without them.
Well, let's give listeners like the checklist. Like, what are these essential things that you'd want to pack in that bag that you'd want with you, every day at the con?
Yeah, and I would say, the booklet that comes with it, check out that stuff. Like, there's just basics like your ID and your badge is probably going to come without a lanyard. But when you walk in for the first time, they're going to hand you one of those giant souvenir bags that you see in all the photos from con, where it's like people wear it as a backpack, and it's 3 feet wide by 4 feet tall, and they're going to hand you a lanyard and they're going to hand you these books. So you can carry that stuff. That's great. But it also weighs you down. So you're gonna, first day, you figure it out. But like I generally don't even pick that stuff up. So yeah, I the essentials to me are keeping clean, of course, protecting myself from the sun, and staying hydrated. So I have sunscreen with me. I'm going to carry like a spray on sunscreen. And also like I have this thing that looks like a deodorant stick, but it's sunscreen. So I can just easily like, stick it on my forehead and on the tops of my ears. So when I'm standing outside waiting for a hot dog or whatever, I'm not getting burned. But I will also carry, a hand sanitizer and probably like a backup hand sanitizer. Maybe some,
lots of press in the flesh, I guess.
Like, wipe off door handles or anything that I might be a little sketchy about. But my secret...
Are you saying nerds are dirty, Todd? Are you saying that
I'm
we're
saying conventions are dirty?
Okay.
And it's funny because Lainey off the air last week when we did our episode told me some behind the scenes on like how filthy the bathrooms are at New York Comic Con.
Oh, geez.
Compared to San Diego. And it was like, oh man, I didn't know we needed to be that thankful for them. I mean, they're, it's like, I always recognize they're doing a good job, like keeping those things clean throughout the day. But apparently like it's an incredible job that we are just not even close to appreciating. I
kind of feel like they need to have one of those like mini documentaries. You know how on the Disney Channel from time to time they air like, when the park closes, this team comes out.
Yeah.
Like they walk all the rides. There's literally like 8 hours between when the park closes and opens that this like army of people go and clean and inspect and reset. And it's like, and it's almost like the park is just as active, but with all the people in the background. I wonder if the con has kind of a version of that where it's like,
I mean, they that would be a great thing to see happen, like to actually make that documentary, because there are great figures that I do not have in front of me of like how much money this brings into San Diego every year and how many people it employs through that week. And I guess beyond with the preparation and the cleanup. So yeah, that's a story in itself, some enterprising writer or documentarian who can get a paycheck from that. Get on that.
There you go.
Yeah. So, and not necessarily because the con is dirty itself. It's just, you're going to be around thousands and thousands of people. I just bring hand sanitizer. I'm one of those people. So I would definitely suggest that to anyone. Target has them. They're like 50 cents each or whatever. Grab like a bunch of them. This is also coming from the guy who got swine flu at
that's
San Diego
right.
Comic-Con in 2009. So
that's right. I remember talking about this.
I came back to Orange County and my doctor was like, well, you're a patient zero in Orange County. We have
no. It can happen. It's almost like a geek refugee colony, where it's like,
yep. Yeah. So, but I'll tell you my secret weapon, which I don't actually use as much as I want to use, are these things you can find at any like drugstore or Target or whatever that are just, they're often in the makeup removal section, but they're just like cleaning cloths for your face. And the ones I like are, I can't even remember the brand name, but it has something about cucumber in the name because they're cucumber face wipes. Actually, the ones I really like are the Target, whatever it's called, the one, they have that brand that's like 1-on-1 or 1-to-1 or something.
Yeah.
But they don't make a travel pack. But these cucumber travel pack wipes are awesome for just like refreshing yourself. Just wipe your face off in the middle of the day because you've been sweating all day. It's fantastic. And for me also, I wear sunscreen all the time, of course, because I live in Southern California. And it drives me crazy when you start to like perspire, or it's just late in the day and it starts running down your face and like into your eyes and stinging and stuff. So having these little face wipes where you're just standing in a line, like sweating, and can just wipe off that sunscreen and like refresh yourself. That's my secret weapon, are the face wipes. Yeah. So I definitely bring sunglasses. You're going to spend more time outside than you think about. So if you can grab some like cheap sunglasses that just, it's okay if you break them or whatever, that'd be great. Throw those in the bag. If you're a hat kind of person, I would say a hat's a good idea. I like again, it's just bright sunlight. So I happen to have received both sunglasses and a hat as swag last year. So I'm covered.
Nice. And you also have that credibility of like, I was here last year. You can see it displayed on me.
You're seeing this cheap hat that has somehow made it through the year.
Is that kind of like wearing the T-shirt of the band you're seeing to the concert of that band? Does it feel like that at all, or does it matter?
I don't know. I've probably been guilty of wearing some T-shirts of bands to. I don't necessarily subscribe to that terrible judgment of like,
okay,
if you wear the T-shirt to the band, but no, because there's definitely like there's almost a thing of people at cons where they're carrying last year's bag or something, and you're going like, oh, I got it, or repurposing the bag to something new this year. Yeah, so. Okay, so if you trash this huge bag or just don't accept it at the beginning, which is the better deal, don't take it and then throw it away. Just don't take it.
It's not like a swag bag. It doesn't have anything in it. It's just
right. It's just this enormous bag that's advertising some show or something on it, and everyone's turned into a walking billboard for the week. And that's great. Like if it works for you, it is just enormous. And so you're either going to have to fold it up and put this thing in your bag, which is going to take up quite a bit of space, or you're going to have to wear it around and everything you have is like way down in the bottom of this huge bag. And they're not really that, they're not like real reliable. It's kind of like an IKEA bag that's only one layer of plastic or whatever.
Got
it's
it.
just not. I had the straps break on them before when I've loaded them down with stuff, and it's not convenient to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you don't accept that, bear in mind, a lot of the dealers don't have bags for you. So that is the benefit of them giving you this giant bag, is everything you buy, you're going to be able to put in this thing for sure. But, if you don't like it like me, then you got to be pretty conscious of like, if I buy an art print, how am I going to safely carry this? So especially if you're going for art, a lot of people buy those like poster tubes. And especially if you can get one that might fit in your backpack, that's a great idea. Roll up those art prints, put them in your own poster tube, and that you can somehow pack. But yeah, so you may need bags. It's also a good argument for like, the bag that you're carrying with you, you can't have it so packed full of your food and sunscreen that you can't fit anything else in it.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't been to a con, it's like there's the events, which we'll talk about. There's the people you can meet. There's Artist Alley, but a lot of it, if not half of it, is just a gigantic pop-up store of the coolest stuff you'll ever buy all year long. So you want to have room to carry all that, or maybe not. Maybe you're one of those people who's like, no. If I have too much room, I'll buy too much stuff. So I just gotta be careful, but just know that going in, you're going to spend money on some cool stuff. You want to be able to put it away so you can walk around and not have it, just lugging you around everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. I had the funniest introductory experience my first year at con. I met up with a friend who had traveled out from Nashville. So I was living here then, and he had traveled out, and but he had been before. So he had this whole system, and this is like pre-app days and stuff like that. So he has this, the preview book that the schedule that he's printed out online and highlighted every panel that he's going to. Jeez. And then he had one of those camping backpacks with like all the sections. And he was like, well, this section, is all the hardbound trade paperbacks, or not trade paperbacks, but like the hardbound like graphic novels that he picked up. And this section is like the toys, and this section is like the stuff that can get crushed. It's okay. And so he had brought this bag big enough basically to like organize every section of it. I try to go as light as possible. So I'm hoping the backpack with the like outside drink pockets, like water bottle pockets, will help me out a little bit this year.
Mm-hmm. Let me stop real quick with the bag. I just came back from Italy. At every turn, they're warning you about pickpockets. Make sure you watch out. Is that a concern at SDCC? Do you get a lot of that? Do you feel like
I've never been warned of that concern. But as you might imagine from a guy who carries face wipes and hand sanitizer everywhere, I'm a little obsessive compulsive in some things. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably sort of naturally guarding cash and wallet and things like that. It is like wall to wall bodies on Friday and Saturday. So just if you have any reason to be concerned, like be concerned, it's not, and honestly, not to jump into a awful topic, but also like I have in the past witnessed people just being obscene in those tight spaces, So if you are like, just be prepared, it is not like, it's not always a comfortable environment. It's like, it is a good crowd, I would say. Largely, it's not like one that you need to be worried about. It's not like being on a subway full of strangers. You can rest assured that everybody is actually there for the convention itself, not to just be perverts, but there are going to be those people in that crowd, and watch out. But yeah, I would say wallet and anything else you need to keep close to you. Make sure it's like on your person, not in some deep bag that when you're crammed into a crowd, you're not going to notice someone dipping their hand into. Mm-hmm. And along those lines, it is good actually to have some cash on you, because although almost every artist now uses something like Square to process credit card payments, it always helps those artists out if you're buying directly from them with cash. So, I would say just on that, like sort of, being a good citizen kind of scale is like the more corporate the entity from which you are buying, that's your credit card level, and then you go down to like debit cards and then cash to like the independent artist. But if you're buying something from DC, for all, use your credit card and they'll pay that 3% processing fee or whatever. But it always helps out artists to hand them cash. And then I brought up the camera thing with you because I have gone back and forth on carrying my camera. I don't think I carried it at all last year. I think I relied totally on my phone. And I think the year before I only carried it like one day. I am going to bring mine specifically because I'm going to put the portrait lens on it, like my 40 millimeter lens. Because I've just had a really good time like shooting portraits of cosplayers before. And the wide angle my phone can capture, if I'm outside and I want to take a picture of the crowd, the phone's going to get that no problem. But that's the only reason I can really see for bringing, my Canon. But bear that in mind, that's another weight that you're carrying around. There's an absolute grab the Comic-Con app right now. I don't know if the schedule, I saw the schedule for the first time on the app this morning. So it's there right now. It will get updated over the next week. But certainly every day, like as you save events to your schedule and you open up the next day, just be aware, like it's going to update stuff. And so, just check for updates and see what's changed on your schedule. But it does a great job of like, you can star events and it saves them to my events. So then you can go back and say, what are the Thursday events I starred, and you can kind of see your quick schedule there. And then a thing that I have not done in the past, I've always heard, and even the Comic-Con book says, bring a sketchbook. It's great for getting autographs or sketches from artists. But something I didn't really think of until my friend Eric was in Artist Alley and people were giving him sketchbooks is you can create a great collection of your own, like a great coffee table book of your own.
Nice.
If you are taking a sketchbook in, handing it to an artist and commissioning them, you know, if your favorite character is Batman or whatever, and you get each artist to draw that same character, you're going to have this amazing coffee table book of like your favorite artist drawing your favorite character over and over.
Nice.
So,
I love that. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like pretty much artists that do take those kind of commissions will draw any character you request, but it's always good to like specialize. You know, I mean, if they've got a special character or something, I wouldn't say go, like, definitely don't go out of your way to like stump them or something.
Yeah.
So I know,
but like, I'm immediately thinking if this was me, I would pick a character from like Masters of the Universe or something, or like Doctor Who, where it's like, I would be more interested to see how they, and I would give them like, do whatever you want, like knowing what that, even if you kind of are half familiar with that character, draw it anyway, because I'm curious what it looks like through your eyes.
You kind of want to get their take on it.
Yeah.
I would just say, you know, be mindful if you get some pushback from the artist, respect the artist and change your tactic, you know.
Respect the artist. That should be like a sign everywhere, you know.
For sure. Having like sat at Eric's table only for like an hour at a time the past couple of years, it is the experience behind that table is so crazy. And it's definitely weirder for me because I'm not actually working on a sketch. At least the artist kind of gets to look down and ignore how people are ignoring him. But it's just a different experience where there's like, you know, like a guy tried to steal money from me, like in front of my face.
Wow.
You know, like bought a print from me, and pretended he gave me like a 20 or something. I can't remember the whole situation. It was like, oh man, this is weak. You're trying to steal from like an artist, you know, not like some massive company that's not going to notice. Like I'm going to notice $10. Anyway. Yeah. So that's kind of my quick overview of like what to pack. Again, lightweight, prepare for heat. If not in the weather, then in the body heat, and prepare for crowds. Yeah. So that is probably a good way to jump off on my number one rule that goes through everything, which is just, it's like a thing you're gonna have to have some like forgiveness for yourself, even if you have this in mind. You got to plan on lines for everything. So this is not I'll grab a cup of coffee real fast and meet you guys in the room kind of thing. Like if you want a bathroom, if you want coffee, if you want food, if you know, whatever you want a autograph from somebody and you know they're at the booth at that moment, plan on a line. And it's so hard, even like going in year after year and knowing, oh, we're going to have all these lines. I still forget I'm going to have to be in lines all the time. But I think the corollary to that is to go in with only a few targets each day so that nothing is too close together. Like basically if anything is back to back and it's not in the same room, you're not going to make it. Yeah. You know, last year, I remember, you know, like on Thursday, I said, look, the only thing I want to do is get John Hodgman's autograph on this day. And I had that great little encounter with John Hodgman. I got his autograph. It's always fun when you like meet the person that, you know, you really admire. And I have like a little special moment to take away from John Hodgman. And I walk over, and I see, I talked about it last year and it just slipped his name. Oh no.
While you think about that, let me just interject and say, if you've not been to San Diego Comic-Con and you're interested in the Hall H experience, probably make that the only thing you're going to do that day. It seems like every time I talk to anybody who has seen or has been part of Hall H, you got to line up. It's almost like a concert in the 80s when you're buying tickets. Like you almost have to line up the night before to even get considered to be in the hall. And then once you get through that line, then it's like you got to sit in the hall for another couple hours or an hour or two. It's the Hall H experience is almost its own version of Comic-Con. And there's a lot of cool things that happen in Hall H, but honestly, they show a lot of that on YouTube, either officially or unofficially after the fact, or even during anyway. So just be mindful of the things that you're investing your time in. It might make more sense to go, what would take a whole day to do one Hall H panel, you might be able to find 6 to 7 really cool indie things that are either undiscovered or much, much smaller in scope that you'd get a much more well-rounded experience in doing.
For sure. There's that's funny because we have an episode from 2 years ago. It's number 19 of our show. If you go back to it, 19, 20, and 21 were all about Comic-Con in 2016. And that one we talked to one of my friends who did the Hall H thing for the Alien panel. Michaela. And it was definitely that thing of like, she had never done the whole Hall H experience and planned her whole day, like Saturday or whatever it was, Friday or Saturday. She just said, I will be in Hall H. So she spent the night down there so that she was, first in line the next morning. And she goes through the whole thing of like how they're going to hand out these tickets that tell you what place you are in line, what group you are in line. They do that in the evening after the last panel has ended from that day. And then you're allowed to go home, I think. But she ended up going home and like showering and getting something to eat, but then came back and got in line because people just don't trust each other not to jump the line overnight, and people literally just camp out. And then she spent the whole day in Hall H, but she saw so much cool stuff and she'd never done it. And it was, it varies so wildly too, because I think a couple of years ago, like that year she did it, I would have told you, don't even try to go to Hall H unless you can dedicate the whole day to it. Mm-hmm. But then I think it seems to me like last year, now I didn't go in Hall H last year, but I know there were times where I saw the line was just empty and you could basically walk in because once the final big panel of the day is gone, so many people leave that then there's no more line required to go to the next panel. They just let people in until it's filled up. So I do think you're always going to have like a special experience with Hall H. I mean, I get asked every year from people if it's too commercial now and it's just not the same. And no, granted, I didn't go in sort of the 80s or 90s. But the thing is, it is so huge. You can find, if you are at all in a geek community space, you'll find members of that community there. Yeah. So
you can almost custom tailor your own version of SDCC.
Exactly. That is exactly what you're doing. This is not Disneyland where everybody's going on Space Mountain. You don't, if you miss Hall H, no problem. It doesn't matter. Like, unless there's something you were just dying to see in Hall H, don't worry about it. There's so much other cool stuff that you're fine. So there's Hall H and there's also Ballroom 20. So anytime you see one of those, you are going to have to be so prepared for a line and like when you're going to have to line up. Pretty universally what they do is they don't clear rooms between panels. So, granted, like this will backfire as soon as I say it, but basically like you got to aim for the panel before the panel you want to see. In one of those places, at least. Hall H is like sometimes you got to aim for the whole day because that's just how it works. But because I think when we talked to Michaela, the Alien panel was like at 3:00 in the afternoon, and she went. I think that's what it was, or I can't remember if it was very first thing she saw, or if it was late in the day. But then she just figured like, well, I'm here. I'll watch Marvel. I'll watch Doctor Who. I'll watch all these other huge panels. So I don't think Marvel is at the show this year.
Yeah,
and HBO's not at the show.
That makes sense, though. Marvel's they can't really say much about anything until Infinity War 2 comes out. What about other events? Because like there's the main convention center, but almost kind of like South by Southwest. It's not just that; it's the whole downtown area. Where could you find other panels, other events officially? Is there such a thing as like off Broadway? In terms of SDCC.
Great question. So there are. In the official schedule, there's 3 hotels, 2 on one side of the convention center and 1 on the other. So like the Hilton, the Hyatt, and the Marriott or something. So there will be panels and other events and a lot of like gaming in those hotels, in different ballrooms. That's all connected to the convention center. Like all that stuff will be programmed you'll see it in the app or in the program guide they give you. You will find those locations. They've been doing official events at the library, which is this like gorgeous, ridiculous new library that they've got downtown. And in some years, I don't know that they've always been attached to Comic-Con, but at Petco Stadium, like the Padres Stadium, there have been events in there. Like one big deal for several years was The Walking Dead. Like you paid money to get chased by zombies through this maze in the stadium. People could pay money to watch you get chased. That was my favorite part. You couldn't even go watch them get chased for free.
Dang.
But actually so there's a one point there, which is there's tons of stuff to do in downtown San Diego that you don't need a badge for. Like there's a big, a lot of this you got to register for in advance, but there's like a big, The Good Place, I think, has a big interactive experience this year outside.
Castle Rock does. They built a whole town across the convention center.
So those things are generally like, they're open to you if you don't have a badge. They're not always free, but they're open. You know? But to your point, there are going to be lines there too. So don't pretend as though just because they're not part of the official badge slate that there's not going to be maybe even bigger lines for these things. Yeah. I would also say the other thing is that there's so much like that area of San Diego. Now, I don't know if this encompasses all of that downtown area, but like 4th and 5th Street, right around there is known as the Gaslamp Quarter. And there's so much cool stuff in Gaslamp, and the streets, at least I think 5th is generally blocked off for the couple of blocks right before the convention center. So there's just so much like pedestrian traffic, and every restaurant, the servers are in costume or they have special cocktails named after, superheroes or sci-fi stuff. There's galleries down there. I think there's like a Chuck Close gallery that's always does like a, San Diego, like Comic-Con sort of takeover where there's comic book art on the walls. And so there's just tons of stuff to do to give yourself a break from the convention center, just kind of get out of that. You'll still be in a crowd. But at least you can there's more stuff to do. Like it's it's simultaneously like that feeling of like FOMO of I'm missing out on something cool happening here. I guess that's what it is if you go in only to see Game of Thrones, like there's no way you can't experience that missing out regret, because something else cool is going to happen across the convention center that you're going to miss. Rose Leslie's going to show up and sell a pop figurine to somebody or something. Adam Savage is walking around in a costume and you're trying to identify him, or you're not the one that sees him or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you just kind of open it up to like the experience, there is so much to do downtown and all over that it's just fun to do. There's a big park behind the convention center that I don't think you need a badge for that. And they've done a bunch more like interactive things back there. I think it was last year they did maybe it's 2 years ago, they did like a mutant sort of, they had these like tubes set up that would like sort of just spray gas down on you. So it looked like you were in a tube getting like iced or something, or
it
had something to do with Legion or whatever. I don't know. And they've had like the zip line across Gotham. And one year they had every Batmobile from every movie out there.
Damn.
And so it's like, you can always just take a break and experience something else and see something else. Don't feel that you have to stick to this rigid schedule. I remember the name of the person I saw was John Holmstrom, the illustrator from Punk Magazine. And I think I said it on our podcast last year of like, I went in Thursday, like I only want to meet John Hodgman, and I ended up meeting him and then getting an autograph from Holmstrom and then something else like before lunch. And we went to lunch and I was like, yeah, I can go. I'm good. Like it's all
my day's done
gravy at this point, at that it was so much easier than to just kind of roll around and be like, hey, it's a free day, like I kind of checked off the 2 items on my list and everything else was bonus.
That's rad. I wonder, by the way, as you were talking about lines and just sort of the other events, I wonder if anybody's employed the strategy of, if you want to disrupt a line or create some chaos so that you can slip into something, just point at whatever random guy you see that's dressed up with the mask on and say, "It's Chris Hemsworth, everybody! There he is! That's Hemsworth! I know it!" And try to make everybody believe that the next tall guy with a mask on is Chris Hemsworth. Disrupt that line and then just like sneak in. I would love to see somebody try that and try it successfully. And bonus points if that actually ends up being Chris Hemsworth and you out him. That seems like a game that everybody should probably be playing at all times.
Oh boy. I remember when the Suicide Squad cast came across the floor. I think I also told this story a couple years ago where I was like in this mad dash to get to the end of this one aisle where this author was doing a signing. I was like, she's leaving at 3:00. And I'm like running. And right then they have all these security guards escorting every member of the Suicide Squad cast across the middle of the floor. Ugh. So they've literally done this like, Moses parting the river kind of thing. The security has blocked all traffic running, north to south across the.
It's like a presidential motorcade. It's like stop all traffic. Here it comes.
Yeah. So it's on one hand, I don't know that anyone would fall for it because they've sort of been trained to expect like Hemsworth isn't just walking around without a guard. Like
but there's usually those
guards. But
there have been bigger stars known to just throw on a mask and just wander around as other normies, and it's like I wonder. I wonder if you couldn't throw that out there. Let me ask you this though: during all this, obviously, there's lines and everything. And you're talking about coffee, but where should one eat? Lunchtime.
Yeah.
If you got friends with you, is there a better place to eat with a group than as an individual? Is it all sort of like food truck food or cafeteria food? Do you even try to get into a restaurant at this juncture? What's your recommendation?
Yeah, awesome question, because I think I can lean more into I don't have specific recommendations just because I'm not in that area of town that often. I don't remember the names of these except every year when I go back down there. Like I said, every restaurant's going to have some Comic-Con flair that week, so they're also going to be pretty focused on getting people in and out. So it's not necessarily like, don't think that it's faster for you to eat in and around the convention center than to go across to the Gaslamp District, because a lot of the like restaurant proper kind of places are trying to move people through there so quickly. Mm-hmm. So they're definitely like staffed up and moving you, but it's also, if you're an older gentleman like myself, it's great to like move away. I'm telling you, my convention experience went day and night for the better a couple years ago when all of my friends agreed, let's eat good food and let's not take the trolley. Those two things made such a huge difference. Because even if you go a few blocks extra, you can get food and kind of sit down for a minute and just feel that like, I walked a few more blocks to get here, but I got seated faster and I could take my time to eat. That said, there's tons of stuff right there that's actually pretty decent that I don't think you, so I don't think you need to worry about. Basically, don't eat the microwave pizza in the convention center is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Unless you're like, I don't know, 21 and under or something, there's no reason to just go up to the thing that's like in the center where they're just like giving you the reheated cheese.
What about cost though? Like how much, if you get anywhere within the convention center radius, are you paying, exorbitant prices? Is it ridiculous? Is it reasonable?
I don't know that it's ridiculous. It's probably marked up a little bit. Outside there's that big open yard, right between the Hilton, Bayside and the Hall H. There's also like set up right there is always like a hot dog and hamburger stand that I haven't actually eaten at, but it smells delicious. And the reason I haven't eaten there is because the line is huge. So, and I always think of it as like, I'll just grab a hot dog, but no. It's like, you got to stand in line for a hot dog. But that's a reasonably quick, because you're not getting seated and all that kind of stuff. You just have to stand in line to get lunch. But that's pretty good food. There's a sports bar right there that my friends and I inevitably eat at every year. And then someone's like, I'm kind of tired of this place. But what about, it's like a TGI Fridays kind of thing.
What about, this just crossed my mind, what about bringing your own snacks and stuff? Is that,
I'll definitely do that.
They don't forbid your own
no,
food?
No. You can bring water and food in for sure. I think on the prohibited items are more about like weapons.
Got it. Okay.
I'm looking at it now.
Food as a weapon? I mean, I would imagine like Jason Bourne could take a bag of pretzels and you take down a
frowned upon. There's also like, there are coffee stops in the convention center. There's at least 2 Starbucks, like maybe 3, maybe 2 Starbucks stands, and then 1 sort of Starbucks that actually has a few seats in. But you're going to have to wait forever in a line to get that stuff. So on my coffee tip, it would be, if you're like me and you require it to function, get it before you even go into the center. Like get it downtown or it's somewhere else, like the coffee shop in Hilton. So even if you're staying in the Hilton and you have to go downstairs to get Starbucks, huge line, it's insane.
Can you imagine, by the way, if you were just some normal dude or lady in San Diego on regular business that weekend, and you had unbeknownst to you booked a room at the Hilton, and it's just like a year or two.
I actually believe that's impossible.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I do know that I've gone to certain panels there that they line you up outside, and you're sort of like below the pool deck, and you're looking up at these people at the pool, and you're like, "What the hell are you doing at a pool in the middle of Comic-Con? Like, put your costume on and get down here. Come on."
Yeah.
I do think granted, there's cosplayers that stay all over, but God, the ones that get a hotel room right there are the most fortunate, because they're the ones that can like do the costume for an hour and then go back and change into street clothes and have a convention experience. So the trolleys to get downtown are just jam packed. Like, it is insane how many people come from North County as far as up as the trolley runs. Those people are coming in, and the same with the train. And as I don't know if we did a show in 2015 on this, but in 2015, I think was the year I had this terrible train experience.
Oh no, we talked about it because that's where you saw your Wicked and Divine.
That's where I saw the Wicked and Divine cosplayer, where I literally I left the convention and told my friends I gotta make this train. And then I stand in line outside waiting for the train for 2 hours.
Jesus.
Like an Amtrak scheduled train. And and then stood for the entire 2-hour ride home,
Having just done trains in Italy where, waiting 20 minutes was a little offensive. I can't imagine 2 hours and then another. Oh God. So you had mentioned in your notes, also pedicabs, which I always have to remind myself, pedicabs are the same thing as rickshaws. I was always like, pedicab.
Human-powered rickshaws. So it used to be a big thing in the days before Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft, I think, have changed that. And I do think the influence of Uber and Lyft has caused there is some big closure downtown this year. And I think that's because they're tired of getting the Uber and Lyft people on this one street right in front of the convention center, pausing all the time to let people on and off.
Yeah.
So I think if you're Ubering and Lyfting, you're now going to have to walk into the Gaslamp district and find a street that's got, ingress and egress in order to catch your Uber. Also, just a side note, don't take Uber, take Lyft. Uber seems to have some shitty corporate policies. But pedicabs are always right there. Bear in mind that is a rickshaw, where a human being is in the sun, getting you someplace. So you want to have cash to take them, and you want to tip heavily, I would say,
and just be overall nice to them.
Yeah. I be aware a lot of them are trying to scam each other or scam you on getting the most rides per day. So it's a little competitive down there, but yeah, treat them like human beings and tip them appropriately. Hey, great advice from 2018, Todd. That's right. Treat everyone like they are human beings, especially those performing a service for you, because it is hot. And throughout the week of San Diego Comic-Con, those of us going are going to be in very close proximity to each other, totally invading each other's interpersonal space. So just try to pretend that that we're not invading each other's space so much, and just be polite and treat each other as you would like to be treated. And or treat each other as I would like to be treated, because I don't know what your low standards are on that, but mine are pretty high. Anyway, That is it for our San Diego Comic-Con survival guide. As I mentioned, we will probably polish this off every year and re-record an intro, talk about maybe a little bit of what's going on this year. The schedule just came out for 2019, like last night, so I have not had a chance to thoroughly peruse it, but I will do so. Until then, listen to more panelism episodes. We've recapped San Diego Comic-Con for the past 3 years or something. We've talked to a friend of mine who's an artist, a friend of mine who did the whole Hall H experience. Go dig in the panelism archives and find all that stuff. And until then, sorry, let me tell you where to find those archives. Find them on any podcast platform that you enjoy. We are on iTunes and Google Podcasts and Stitcher, and we're even on Luminary, that new thing. Just pretty much anywhere fine podcasts are heard. You can also find us online, and in fact, the best way to chat with us is through Instagram, where we are panelism.inc. That's INK, like the stuff used to make comic books. That's where we respond to most comments. We post a lot of art from the comics that we're talking about. On the web, we are also panelism.inc. That is a new domain name. So you can find out where to subscribe there, tell your friends about us, review us anywhere you can. And next week, we are hoping during Comic-Con week to bring you probably a normal comic book review. And then the week after that, we'll probably do my Comic-Con wrap-up. So keep listening. Stay tuned in, subscribed, whatever it is you want to call it. Until then, I'm Todd A. Anything else you want to add, Taylor? Taylor's not here. So he will talk to you next week along with myself. And until then, we'll see you.